custody, right? In custody. Everyone did a great job. We worked with the local police, the governor. Everybody did a great job.
So a pastor was able to turn him in, or they got the family of the shooter to turn them in?
Well, it was a minister, and the minister went to a minister who was involved with law enforcement, by the way. And his good friend is a top U.S. Marshal. And they took it from there. And then it was a father got involved, namely his father, and said, we got to go in. And they, so I understand it. And again, subject to change. But, you know, the facts are the facts. We have the person that we think is the person we're looking for. But they drove into the police headquarters, and he's there now.
Did the father know about what the son had done?
I don't know. I'm going to let you get all those questions later, because I can't tell you how accurate. The bottom line is they have somebody that they think did it.
What's going to happen to this guy?
Well, I hope he's going to be found guilty, I would imagine, and I hope he gets the death penalty. What he did, Charlie Kirk was the finest person. He didn't deserve this. He worked so hard and so well. Everybody liked him. I've been watching. Even the left is having a hard. I think.
The killing of Charlie Kirk is in custody as per U.S. President Donald Trump in a Fox interview. Trump said he learned of the development 5 minutes before the interview and that law enforcement would release more details later in the day. It follows a widespread search that began soon after the influential MAGA podcaster and Turning Point USA co-founder was fatally shot on Wednesday in Utah, setting off a nationwide period of mourning and a heated dispute about who's to blame for political violence. The FBI had offered a $100,000 reward and released photos of a person of interest in the case on Thursday, later releasing video footage of the shooting suspect fleeing the scene. Kirk was speaking in front of a crowd of about 3,000 on an outdoor plaza at Utah Valley University in the city of Orem when he was fatally shot.
I think with a high degree of certainty, we have him in custody, right? In custody. Everyone did a great job. We worked with the local police, the governor. Everybody did a great job.
So a pastor was able to turn him in, or they got the family of the shooter to turn them in?
Well, it was a minister, and the minister went to a minister who was involved with law enforcement, by the way. And his good friend is a top U.S. Marshal. And they took it from there. And then it was a father got involved, namely his father, and said, we got to go in. And they, so I understand it. And again, subject to change. But, you know, the facts are the facts. We have the person that we think is the person we're looking for. But they drove into the police headquarters, and he's there now.
Did the father know about what the son had done?
I don't know. I'm going to let you get all those questions later, because I can't tell you how accurate. The bottom line is they have somebody that they think did it.
What's going to happen to this guy?
Well, I hope he's going to be found guilty, I would imagine, and I hope he gets the death penalty. What he did, Charlie Kirk was the finest person. He didn't deserve this. He worked so hard and so well. Everybody liked him. I've been watching. Even the left is having a hard.
The suspected shooter in the killing of Charlie Kirk is in custody as per U.S. President Donald Trump in a Fox interview. Trump said he learned of the development 5 minutes before the interview and that law enforcement would release more details later in the day. It follows a widespread search that began soon after the influential MAGA podcaster and Turning Point USA co-founder was fatally shot on Wednesday in Utah, setting off a nationwide period of mourning and a heated dispute about who's to blame for political violence. The FBI had offered a $100,000 reward and released photos of a person of interest in the case on Thursday, later releasing video footage of the shooting suspect fleeing the scene. Kirk was speaking in front of a crowd of about 3,000 on an outdoor plaza at Utah Valley University in the city of Orem when he was fatally shot. The suspected...
I think with a high degree of certainty, we have him in
now.
custody, right? In custody. Everyone did a great job. We worked with the local police, the governor. Everybody did a great job.
So a pastor was able to turn him in, or they got the family of the shooter to turn them in?
Well, it was a minister, and the minister went to a minister who was involved with law enforcement, by the way. And his good friend is a top U.S. Marshal. And they took it from there. And then it was a father got involved, namely his father, and said, we got to go in. And they, so I understand it. And again, subject to change. But, you know, the facts are the facts. We have the person that we think is the person we're looking for. But they drove into the police headquarters, and he's there now.
Did the father know about what the son had done?
I don't know. I'm going to let you get all those questions later, because I can't tell you how accurate. The bottom line is they have somebody that they think did it.
What's going to happen to this guy?
Well, I hope he's going to be found guilty, I would imagine. And I hope he gets the death penalty. What he did, Charlie Kirk was the finest person. He didn't deserve this. He worked so hard and so well. Everybody liked him. I've been watching. Even the left is having a hard time, I think.
ITV नेटवर्क के फाउंडर और संसद में मेरे साथी कार्तिकेय शर्मा जी, नेटवर्क की पूरी टीम, देश विदेश से आए सभी अतिथि, देवी और सज्जनों, न्यूज एक्स वर्ल्ड इसकी शुभ शुरुआत, और इसके लिए मैं आप सबको बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं, बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। मीडिया के इस तरह के इवेंट्स होते रहते हैं, लेकिन आपके नेटवर्क ने इसे एक नया डायमेंशन दिया है। आपका ये समिट आने वाली कल को समर्पित है। जितने भी मैं इवेंट्स में गया हूं, एक छोटे से कमरे में होते हैं और अपने अपने लोग होते हैं। यहाँ इतने विशाल समारोह को देखना, और वो भी एक मीडिया हाउस के समारोह को, और जीवन के सभी क्षेत्रों को स्पर्श किए हुए लोग यहाँ होना, ये अपने आप में बहुत बड़ी बात है। इस टेम्पलेट को आने वाले दिनों में दूसरे मीडिया हाउस भी अपने तरीके से और इनोवेटिव बना करके कम से कम उस छोटे कमरे से बाहर निकले। मुझे विश्वास है कि आपका नया चैनल भारत की रियल स्टोरी दुनिया तक पहुंचाएगा। ITV नेटवर्क की पूरी टीम को मैं फिर एक बार ढेर सारी शुभकामनाएं देता हूं।
Hello and welcome back to NewsX World. I'm Thomas Porteous and you're watching Focal Length, where we get you a briefing on topics from across the world. Let's begin in France, where Paris has named its 5th Prime Minister in just 2 years, a sign of growing political turbulence under President Emmanuel Macron. Economic pain is sparking unrest, even as Marine Le Pen's popularity surges despite her
and Sheriff Mike Smith. We also have with us Utah DPS Commissioner Bo Mason, Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson, FBI Special Agent in Charge Robert Bowles, and local and federal law enforcement partners. Following the remarks today, Governor Cox, Director Patel, and Commissioner Mason will take questions. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We got him. On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident. This information was relayed to the Utah County Sheriff's Office and scene investigators at Utah Valley University. This information was also conveyed to the FBI. Investigators reviewed additional video footage from UVU surveillance and identified Robinson arriving on UVU campus in a gray Dodge Challenger at approximately 8:29 a.m. on September 10th, in which he is observed on video in a plain maroon t-shirt, light-colored shorts, a black hat with a white logo, and light-colored shoes. When encountered in person by investigators in Washington County on September 12th in the early morning hours, Robinson was observed in consistent clothing with those surveillance images. Investigators interviewed a family member of Robinson who stated that Robinson had become more political in recent years. The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th, and in the conversation with another family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had. The family member also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate. The family member also confirmed Robinson had a gray Dodge Challenger. Investigators identified an individual as the roommate of Robinson. Investigators interviewed that roommate, who stated that his roommate, referring to Robinson, made a joke on Discord. Investigators asked if he would show them the messages on Discord. He opened it and showed several messages to investigators and allowed investigators to take photos of the screen as each message was shown by Robinson's roommate. These photos consisted of various messages, including content of messages between the phone contact named Tyler with an emoji icon and Robinson's roommate's device. The content of these messages included messages affiliated with the contact Tyler, stating a need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point, leaving the rifle in a bush, messages related to visually watching the area where a rifle was left, and a message referring to having left the rifle wrapped in a towel. The messages also refer to engraving bullets and a mention of a scope and the rifle being unique. Messages from the contact Tyler also mentioned that he had changed outfits. I know there's been speculation as well as to the writing on those casings, those bullet casings, and I believe we have that as well. And I will share that with you now. So the area north of Campus Drive Road where the suspect crossed over, you saw some of that in the video that we released last night, consists of a grassy area with trees on the edge of the UVU campus. Investigators discovered a bolt-action rifle wrapped in a dark-colored towel. The rifle was determined to be a Mauser Model 98 30-06 caliber bolt-action rifle. The rifle had a scope mounted on top of it. Investigators noted inscriptions that had been engraved on casings found with the rifle. Inscriptions on a fired casing read, "Notices, bulges, capital O-W-O, what's this, question mark." Inscriptions on the 3 unfired casings read, "Hey fascist, exclamation point, catch, exclamation point." Up arrow symbol, right arrow and symbol, and 3 down arrow symbols. A second unfired casing read, "Oh Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Chow Chow." And a third unfired casing read, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO." We are indebted to law enforcement across the state who has worked seamlessly together, local law enforcement, state law enforcement, and our federal partners with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We're grateful for everyone who worked together in such a short amount of time to find this person and to bring justice. I want to thank the public who has been so engaged, reviewing videos, helping us with sending in tips, and helping us get to this point. I want to thank the family members of Tyler Robinson who did the right thing in this case and were able to bring him into to law enforcement as well. I especially want to thank the family of Charlie Kirk, Erica, Charlie's parents, his children. I want us to be thinking of them as we bring justice in this case. They will be involved in that justice. We will be working very closely with them as we move through this process as well. This is a very sad day for our country, a terrible day for the state of Utah, but I'm grateful that at this moment we have an opportunity to bring closure to this very dark chapter in our nation's history. With that, I will now turn the microphone over to the Director of the FBI, Kash Patel.
Thank you, Governor. This is what happens when you let good cops be cops. The FBI and our partners are proud to stand here today together to bring justice to the family of Charlie Kirk and honor his memory. I want to express my deep gratitude to President Trump, the Vice President, and the entire White House who have been so incredibly supportive with both resources and just personally to the FBI as a team. They had our backs the entire way, and I just want to express my gratitude for giving us the resources we need to operate in this space to bring this sort of justice at this sort of speed. In 33 hours, we have made historic progress for Charlie. Governor Cox, our partnership has been absolutely incredible these last few days. Our partnership will endure. Your state and local partners, your sheriffs, your DPS community has been unbelievably impressive in the hardest of times. And a case like this cannot be solved, cannot be brought without partnering with your state and local authorities. The FBI has a certain role to play, and we will play that role, and we will lead out for the federal government. But Governor Cox, we are so grateful for your state partnership that led out on this investigation. A little bit of the timeline. Charlie was shot at 12:23 p.m. on Wednesday. The first FBI agents arrived on scene in 16 minutes with chiefs of police at 12:39 and secured the scene. The FBI immediately launched fixed-wing assets. We utilized these assets to transport personnel, specialty technicians, hostage rescue teams. We also utilized these assets to go back and forth from the East Coast and here in Utah to transport forensic evidence and other evidence that will be analyzed and is being analyzed at our FBI laboratories in Quantico and other laboratories, including the ATF. At my direction, the FBI released the first set of FBI photos of the suspect at 10 a.m. local time on 9/11. Then, shortly thereafter, the FBI reward of $100,000 was released at 10:45 a.m. local. Myself and Deputy Director Bongino arrived on the scene at approximately 5:30 p.m. on 9/11. The governor led a press conference last night at approximately 8 p.m. where at my direction, the FBI released a never-before-seen video of the suspect. We also released new images to the public of the suspect. And just last night, the suspect was taken into custody at 10 p.m. local time. In less than 36 hours, 33 to be precise, thanks to the full weight of the federal government and leading out with the partners here in the state of Utah and Governor Cox, the suspect was apprehended in a historic time period. And I want to highlight what Governor Cox said. This would not have been possible without you, the media, and you, the public. That's why we went so public, so fast, and we're so transparent, and we're committed to that transparency. The crime scene, just a little bit there. It is a large crime scene. State and local authorities, along with federal authorities, processed that crime scene quickly. And I even had the ability to walk through that crime scene and walk through the steps the suspect took to learn more about what was needed and what resources we needed to bear to create a full picture for the FBI and leadership back in Washington. Furthermore, thankfully to state and local partners, forensic evidence has been seized and continues to be garnered. Forensic evidence has already been evaluated at FBI laboratories in Quantico and state and local authorities here. We will continue to process evidence as we see it, as we collect it, and we will continue to deliver to Governor Cox and his team. Last night, we had a total of approximately 7,000 leads. As of this morning, thanks to your great work, we have over 11,000 leads that were called in to the FBI. And we are running out every single lead that we can. Every one of those leads will be run out. The arrest is a testament to the dedication of good law enforcement being great, and partnerships in law enforcement, which I've tried to highlight as my tenure as the director of the FBI. There is no better relationship for law enforcement than the FBI to partner with state and local authorities, and you've seen it here in these last few days. The FBI Salt Lake Field Office, along with our offices in LA, Phoenix, Denver, San Antonio, Las Vegas, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, our headquarters component in Quantico, all participate in the FBI. I want to express my deep gratitude to the employees of the FBI, the men and women, the evidence response team tacticians, the special operators, the agents, the support staff. You have done monumental work in historic time when the public, who had a right to demand such an expeditious solving of an investigation, the FBI answered that call diligently, critically important to our nation, and we delivered. And I'm proud to be their leader, and I'm proud to be the director of the FBI. This is very much an ongoing investigation, as the governor said, and we will continue to work with state and local authorities to develop the investigation, to provide them the evidence they need for their ongoing prosecutions, and we will be here to answer every call they absolutely have, as long as it takes, for as long as we need to find and apprehend whatever suspects were involved in this crime. Lastly, to my friend Charlie Kirk, rest now, brother. We have the watch, and I'll see you in Valhalla.
Thank you, and good morning. I would just like to take a few minutes as the sheriff to express my gratitude for everybody who has played a part in this investigation. As you know, it's been a vast, a complicated, and a very, very fast-paced investigation. You're looking at people standing up here who are running on, if they got an hour's sleep in the last couple of days, they're probably lucky. It has been very taxing. It has been so impressive, speaking on behalf of the local law enforcement, to see the cooperation that we've seen in this type of case. Across the state, sheriffs, chiefs, our state partners have stepped up and have come to the call on anything that we needed. Our county chiefs have been phenomenal. Our Utah County Attorney, Jeff Gray, who's standing up here with us, has been phenomenal in leading us through this investigation. I would like to thank the federal government for their resources, their assets. Our local team here, our FBI team, has been extraordinary in helping us work through this and bring this person to justice. Most of all, I would like to thank the public, and specifically, I would like to thank the public who turned to prayers and who turned to positiveness for us. I would like to thank them on behalf of the law enforcement community, because we needed those prayers. That's what we needed to get through this. We needed your support, and you gave it to us. We needed your patience, and you gave it to us. And I would like to thank you for the Kirk family, because that's what they need, is your support and your prayers, and that will get us through all of this. So thank you, everybody, for everybody that have stepped up. We've had such a phenomenal response to this. Thank you.
I also want to give a special thanks to the Attorney General and the Department of Justice. Their unwavering support and their commitment to justice is shown true here. And without AG Bondi and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche and the resources they brought to bear, we would not have been able to complete our mission. And I just want to say special thanks. It's an honor to be a part of the Department of Justice.
Thank you again to our incredible law enforcement team who has worked so hard. Sheriff, I got a solid 90 minutes last night, so I'm probably the most well-rested person up here. Ladies and gentlemen, I get the microphone, so I hope you'll permit me a moment just to share a few more thoughts about where we are and how we got here, and maybe a little bit of where we go from here. I don't want to get too preachy, but I think it's important that we, with eyes wide open, understand what's happening in our country today. I've heard people say, well, why are we so invested in this? There's violence happening all across our country. And violence is tragic everywhere. And every life taken is a child of God who deserves our love and respect and dignity. This is certainly about the tragic death, political assassination of Charlie Kirk. But it is also much bigger than an attack on an individual. It is an attack on all of us. It is an attack on the American experiment. It is an attack on our ideals. This cuts to the very foundation of who we are, of who we have been, and who we could be in better times. Political violence is different than any other type of violence for lots of different reasons. One, because in the very act that Charlie championed of expression, that freedom of expression that is enshrined in our founding documents, in having his life taken in that very act, makes it more difficult for people to feel like they can share their ideas, that they can speak freely. We will never be able to solve all the other problems, including the violence problems that people are worried about, if we can't have a clash of ideas safely and securely. Even, especially those ideas with which you disagree. That's why this matters so much. Over the last 48 hours, I have been as angry as I have ever been. As sad as I have ever been. And it was, as anger pushed me to the brink, it was actually Charlie's words that pulled me back. I'd like to share some of those. And specifically right now, if I could, I need to talk to the young people in our state, in my state, and all across the country. As President Trump reminded me, he said, you know who really loved Charlie? The youths. And he's right. Young people loved Charlie, and young people hated Charlie. And Charlie went into those places anyway. And these are the words that have helped me. Charlie said, when people stop talking, that's when you get violence. He said, the weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. The only way out of the labyrinth of suffering is to forgive. Welcome without judgment, love without condition, forgive without limit. He said, always forgive your enemies. Nothing annoys them so much. A few months ago, I referenced this last night, Charlie posted to social media, when things are moving very fast and people are losing their minds, it's important to stay grounded. Turn off your phone, read scripture, spend time with friends, and remember, internet fury is not real life. It's going to be okay. He again said, when you stop having a human connection with someone you disagree with, it becomes a lot easier to commit violence. He said, what we as a culture have to get back to is being able to have a reasonable agreement, where violence is not an option. Now, again, To my young friends out there, you are inheriting a country where politics feels like rage. It feels like rage is the only option. But through those words, we have a reminder that we can choose a different path. Your generation has an opportunity to build a culture that is very different than what we are suffering through right now. Not by pretending differences don't matter, but by embracing our differences and having those hard conversations. I think we need more moral clarity right now. I hear all the time that words are violence. Words are not violence. Violence is violence. And there is one person responsible for what happened here. And that person is now in custody and will be charged soon and will be held accountable. And yet, all of us have an opportunity right now to do something different. I want to thank my fellow Utahns. You know, this bad stuff happens. For 33 hours, I was praying that if this had to happen here, that it wouldn't be one of us. That somebody drove from another state, somebody came from another country. Sadly, that prayer was not answered the way I had hoped for, just because I thought it would make it easier on us if we could just say, hey, we don't do that here. And indeed, Utah is a special place. We lead the nation in charitable giving. We lead the nation in service every year. But it did happen here. And it was one of us. But I want you to look at how Utahns reacted the last 2 nights. There was no rioting. There was no looting. There were no cars set on fire. There was no violence. There were vigils and prayers and people coming together to share the humanity. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I believe is the answer to this. We can return violence with violence. We can return hate with hate. And that's the problem with political violence, is it metastasizes. Because we can always point the finger at the other side. And at some point, we have to find an off-ramp, or it's going to get much, much worse. But see, these are choices that we can make. History will dictate if this is a turning point for our country. But every single one of us gets to choose right now if this is a turning point for us. We get to make decisions. We have our agency. And I desperately call on every American, Republican, Democrat, liberal, progressive, conservative, MAGA, all of us to please, please, please follow what Charlie taught me. I'll just conclude with words I share often from a friend and author, Yuval Levin, who was asked if he was optimistic about our country. And he said, I'm not optimistic. He said, I hate optimism. Like, that sounds bad. But he said, optimism is a vice. It's this idea that good things are just going to happen. And he said, in the history of the world, good things have never just happened. He says, I'm not optimistic, but I am hopeful. And hope is the virtue that sits between the vices of optimism and pessimism. Hope is the idea that good things are going to happen because we can make them so. I still believe in our country. And I know Charlie Kirk believed in our country. I still believe that there is more good among us than evil. And I still believe that we can change the course of history. I'm hopeful because Americans can make it so. Ladies and gentlemen, we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Governor, please speak to whether the suspect is speaking with authorities and his...
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the FBI as well as Utah officials now giving a confirmation that Charlie Kirk's assassin, Tyler Robinson, a 22-year-old Utah University student, has been nabbed. That's the latest that we're picking up from the United States of America, where in a major confirmation, Charlie Kirk's assassin is a 22-year-old young man, a college student, Tyler Robinson, who has now been arrested. That was a very comprehensive, very lengthy conference there by the FBI, wherein details of how he was nabbed have been shared. The FBI director has himself confirmed Tyler Robinson as the shooter, and they've also praised the speed with which the FBI has managed to solve this particular case. Ms. Purnima Nath, Republican leader, with us on the broadcast, and Mr. David K. Johnston, American author, professor of criminal justice, journalism, law, and political science, also with me. Let me begin this conversation with David K. Johnson. Mr. Johnston, I have to understand from you, we've just been trying to understand and see the background of this particular shooter. There is a lot of information that has now started circulating on social media, where people have put in photographs of Tyler Robinson with his family. They've said that this was a typical middle-class family. They had their outings, they had their ups and downs, but he was a bright student, possibly studying with a scholarship at a university. However, there was a lot of exposure to guns. That's what people are taking away from the photographs that are now circulating online. Your first thoughts, sir, on this identity that has been created for this particular shooter?
Well, we don't know hardly anything about the suspect in this case, and he hasn't even been formally charged. He's simply been arrested. The political violence that we're seeing in America is absolutely atrocious, but I'm not surprised that Charlie Kirk became the target of someone who was deeply disturbed by what he was saying. Charlie Kirk was promoting creating a white, racist, supremacist America. He, for instance, wanted to stop anybody from India from coming into the U.S. He said that Islam was incompatible with American values. The primary goal of women should be to find a husband before they're 25 so they can bear children, not to have a career or an education. He was a promoter of racism, hatred, misogyny. And while I've defended in a column published yesterday at dcreport.org his absolute right to present this, and that it is absolutely morally indefensible to shoot him to death, as we saw, nonetheless, we shouldn't whitewash who he is, and we shouldn't be particularly surprised given the many calls for violence by Donald Trump against people he doesn't like, that some people have pointed to people like Charlie Kirk, who was essentially Donald Trump's ambassador to 20-somethings, to young people, that some people have responded with violence, awful and indefensible as that is.
All right, I'll come back to you in just a moment. Purnima Nath, also with us on the broadcast. Purnima Nath, your first takeaways after hearing the FBI.
Thank you, Namaste. Thanks for having me. First of all, I think this is quite sad. What happened here in United States, it just doesn't seem like that United States is safe for anybody at this point of time. It's in the last few days, there were many shootings and many beheadings. Actually, one of them is very specific that has happened in Dallas motel Nobody said about the victim's name and ethnicity. Even the Fox News reporter has spoken about the illegal immigrant or an alien that actually beheaded the Indian American. His name is Chandra Nagamalaya. I have no idea what his religion is. Some say he is a converted Christian, but regardless of it, there is no mention about his name. There's no mention about his ethnicity. And some said that just because Charlie Kirk's the situation came about, this news didn't become in news at all. I disagree because it's the victim. The victim is brown, Indian American. It will never catch hold of a national headline in America. And that's exactly what Dan was speaking about. I'm a Trump supporter. I didn't vote for him once, twice, actually 3 times. And many of what Mr. Kirk said, I agree with him. But at the same time, just the same way George Floyd were glorified and by the Democrat, and Republicans actually didn't whitewash what the person was. And some of the things that Charlie Kirk did in the last few months was very concerning to me. And Dan was speaking about it earlier. He didn't want people from India to be given job over here. He didn't want American companies to extend low-wage jobs in India. And specifically talking about his work was basically for Jesus, for Christian nationalism. So we didn't have any space over here. And I have had a lot of loggerhead with him based on his organizational the vicious tactics as well from a turning point perspective. And that has been going on for months. I'm from Milwaukee, and Milwaukee, Wisconsin is one of the key crucial state. We call it as either a purple state. Basically, it could go either way. So there's a lot of presidential focus in this particular state. If you remember, Hillary Clinton didn't come; she lost it over here. Trump came, and they actually did even the RNC here in last year. So when we talk about even Milwaukee County Republican Party, this was also taken over by the Turning Point associates. And so I was part of the secretary as well in Republican Party in Milwaukee County. So unfortunately speaking, there's a lot of controversial things that we have seen in the past, and that conversation was still going on. Their tactics was not something that I approved of, even though I'm a Republican, I'm a Trump supporter. The same thing that I expect from the left, from the Democrat side, I expect the same thing from the Republican and the right side as well. So it's not about, a lot of Republicans are actually trying to brainwash, which is a political game. I understand that. But I think from a humanitarian standpoint, we have to look at a few things. That when I speak about me, particularly me, somebody like me who's a Hindu, I am not interested in conversion at all. I have my own gods, my rituals. You have no authority to tell me how I should live and who's my king. You can't come and tell me Shiva is not my king. And that kind of conversation is important in this particular scenario, in the political polarization that we see in America. And I was alluding to the beheading. Yes, the same day that has happened on the same day that Kirk was shot and killed. But there's no national news. There's not even a proper local news for this particular man in Texas. Unfortunately, this is not just the one. Just a couple of days before, there was an Indian guy named Karan was shot dead by somebody in some gas station because he objected to a public urination. So there's a lot of debate going on, ma'am, about gun violence in America. This is something that we have to really look at. But at the same time, I think there's a lot more going on in terms of racism. There's a lot more going on in terms of mental health. There's a lot more going on in terms of supremacy. What America is supposed to be going around and dictating everybody else and how they should live, how they should do business, who should they be, and how their policies should be. Literally not taking consideration of the civilizational ethos, civilizational values, values and the religious and cultural background that some of us bring. We do assimilate in this country, but just because I speak about it, I'm also somehow a leftist and Democrat and Indian stooge or Russian stooge or Chinese stooge. I'm everybody's stooge. So this is something that we really have to look around.
All right, I'm going to request both of our guests to stay on with us because we've now been told that there is a video that has come online of this shooter, Tyler Robinson, from when he got his confirmation from Utah University. Listen in.
Congratulations, you have been selected to receive the Resident Presidential Scholarship from Utah State University. The value of this scholarship is approximately $32,000. This scholarship is available for 4 years or 8 semesters.
All right. Mr. David K. Johnston, I want to bring you back into the conversation. I want to understand from you, what exactly, or rather where exactly does this particular shooting now leave America? What's happening within America in your assessment? I mean, this is a young man who was on a scholarship studying at a university. Yes, he had exposure to guns growing up, but the fact that he decided to shoot Charlie Kirk, take that risk of putting his entire life on hold, take that risk, what does that really tell you about the mental state of this particular person and also of the larger conversation that people really have about America and its gun laws?
Yeah, let me point out, as someone who's covered both Donald Trump and criminal justice for decades, crime in America, especially violent crime, has fallen enormously. When I was covering the LAPD for the LA Times 45 years ago, we had 1,000 murders a year in LA, year after year. We now have 300. That's a 70% decline. So overall, violent crime has been falling. Now, when you have a young person who's the same age as my students at Rochester Institute of Technology throw away his life over something like this, that's an indication, of course, the poor judgment of many young people, because the brain hasn't fully developed its judgment centers, but also the kind of passions that are being stirred by Donald Trump, who wants to end any immigration or even visits from people in India. Charlie Kirk absolutely pushed that. It's clear that the Trump administration's Make America Great Again is simply code for Make America White Again. Donald Trump, in proceedings I covered, has been found to have discriminated against women and racial minorities and was fined for it. His family tradition of this goes back 98 years that we can prove from the public record, that he hates people who aren't looking like him or me, Western and Northern Europeans. And Donald Trump's calls for violence, remember, he pointed people out in his audience in rallies, and he would say, you ought to beat that guy up and I'll cover your legal bills, which of course he would never do. And there were people who were physically attacked at some of his rallies. Donald Trump is a promoter of hatred, and it is infecting American political culture. Now, the column I wrote about this at dcreport.org goes back to the 1901 assassination of President William McKinley, whom Trump admires greatly, and how that led to the suppression of rights in America that went on all the way up to the 1960s. And this is a primary goal of people like Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk became a very well-to-do man, very influential. You got to respect his skill at what he was doing. But what he was doing was stoking hatred, fear, and making America white-dominated. There are many videos you can see in the U.S. of Donald Trump's agents who are masked, some of whom committed serious crimes but are now in American law enforcement, saying to a citizen they have stopped, you don't belong here. I'm an American citizen. We don't care. And taking them into custody. This is a Gestapo-like, at least in the sense of arrest, operation by a white supremacist. And Charlie Kirk, well, he had every right to say what he did, and my column talks about his right and how it's wrong to say, as a number of people on the left are, well, he said the price of the Second Amendment is some people are going to die, and he got a taste of his own medicine. Well, I understand that impulse. It's morally offensive, and we should recognize that. And your other guest makes a very good point. We're very selective about which murders we cover in the news business. There were 4 Democrats, leaders in Democratic politics in the state of Minnesota, the state next to where your other guest lives, who were assassinated in June or July. Donald Trump didn't say anything about those while he lowered the flag at the White House to half staff over Charlie Kirk. So I don't think anybody should miss that the U.S. administration right now is a whites-only, remove people from the country that especially hates black people, Mexicans, Muslims, and anybody from India, whether you're a Hindu, a Sikh, or anything else, and wants as a long-term goal to remove everybody like your other guest from this country. And there's so much in the public record about this that people don't grasp that. I don't understand that. And by the way, at the same time, they are taking from children, the disabled, the elderly, and the sick to borrow money and finance tax benefits for billionaires. This is a oligarchy regime run by a man who I've known personally now for almost 40 years. I wrote about him in 1988 becoming president of the United States, 1988, who is in the process of destroying the America we have known and turning it into the dictatorship with Emperor Donald I.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to request both of our guests to stay on with us because we have some more news to reflect. Now, here's what's been released about the probe into the now confirmed shooter, Tyler Robinson. Firstly, Robinson reached out to a friend confessing to the crime. Robinson wrote messages on Discord about the rifle and engraving on the bullets. Here's what the engraving said. Number 1 was, "Hey, fascist." The second was, "Catch me if you can." And the third was, "Bella Ciao." The fourth was, "If you read this, you are gay." Cox has said that investigators found a rifle with the scope. Reportedly, the family members brought Robinson in. The suspect's family told investigators that Tyler Robinson had become more political in recent years. Adding to the revelations, the FBI Director Kash Patel said that forensic evidence has been seized and being evaluated and that the investigation is going on. Purnima Nath, bringing you back into the conversation. When friends and family come out and say that Tyler Robinson had become more political in the recent years, is that an indication of where this conversation about the assassination is headed?
See, American universities and education institutions are interesting, I should say. I did my master's over here, and somehow I did feel that there was a weight, lopsided. Some freedom of speech actually doesn't exist in this country unless you align with certain things, either professor or the group that you align or you are with. So the same thing I would tell you over here, but Charlie Kirk has been portrayed for freedom of speech, which is perfectly fine, and that's exactly what I believe as well. But do I have the freedom of speech in this country? Because I am not Christian, because I'm not white, and I don't come from European descent. They're actually, if you go in my Twitter, you will see how I get attacked in this country because I don't belong here. That's exactly what they're saying. Even though I'm legal citizen in this country, I shouldn't be here. And that's exactly what they're saying. And I think David was alluding earlier. Do I belong here? Who's actually American? And when you talk about America's history, they don't either know or they dismiss it outright that European descendants are not American. I mean, the real American, they say, the Native Americans. So this discussion will go forward, it will happen. But at the end of the day, I think there's few things are happening. Political polarization has happened. And from an Indian perspective, from an Indian immigrant perspective, I can tell you that Democrats are no saints, because they are the one actually wanted to try to seal the deal of caste in this country, using caste to target Indians with the skin color, the name, the ethnicity. And that particular bill SB 403, that went to Governor Newsom in California through the legislative process, is something that you should be worried about. Caste is something that British imposed on us. Indian politics couldn't remove it. And now today, Indian American, somebody who doesn't have anything to do with caste, we are being targeted on that as well in America. And so what I'm trying to tell you is that at the end of the day, regardless of what happens from the Democrat side or the Republican side, whether Islamo-Marxist Democrat side actually literally going to target us as well, and they did. And the white supremacist Republicans don't care for us either. So we are the scapegoat. We are 1% in America. Our population is 1% in America. It's very similar to what Jews' population were in Europe at the time of World War II. And they were ousted, and we are in the same position. One of the primary reason is Indian Americans are very educated. They're actually holding key positions in organizations, and CEOs especially. I'll tell you something. Josh Hawley is one of our senators, Republican senator. Last year in Faith and Freedom Conference, luckily I was actually right there, he specifically mentioned that America, and he wants more Christian CEO. As soon as he came out of the podium, I did ask him, and literally caught him saying, why did you say that? I'm a Hindu. I'm in the Faith and Freedom Conference with you. I believe in God. Do I not belong here? Do I not, people like us don't belong here? He simply said, oh, you have the freedom of religion. That's it. But we do need, Christian CEOs. So our Indian CEOs, the Hindu named CEOs, who are actually not hiring based on Hinduism at all. What about that then? So should they start doing that in America? And the whole conversation somehow turned against Indian Americans in the debate of H-1B, in the debate of CEOs of America, in the debate of how the hiring is going on. And the one way we come to America is with our degrees and our ability to do work for the American companies. Even that they are trying to take it away. And we're only 1%. We're not 10%, and we're not in the jail either. We're not going around and bombing buildings and beheading people and even calling for violence.
Okay, all right.
That's what is going to come at the end of the day. Indian Americans are scapegoat, targeted, and vilified for our ethnicity, for our religion, and conversion is coming, and you can't overlook that.
All right, stay on with us, because more news coming in. Reports now suggest that a family member has recalled a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner before the 10th of September and mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to Utah Valley University, and talked about why he didn't like him and the viewpoints he had. Robinson had told a family member that Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate as well. David K. Johnston, I want to get in a word from you on this. The fact that, of course, more and more information is now pouring in, where we're now learning that this man, Tyler Robinson, clearly thought that Charlie Kirk was full of hate and was spreading hate. But what do you think what's the really takeaway from this for American society at large? Because this sort of a mindset then tells us that somewhere young kids are being told it's okay to shoot down someone if you don't agree with them.
Well, I don't know that anybody told the suspect that it was okay to do so. But the fact is, he is the one suspected of having done this, and suspected with good cause. We are going through a period of political violence unseen in the U.S. since the 1960s. Now, the U.S. has always been a country with lots of political violence. the history of slavery in this country. The Second Amendment, your right to bear arms, was about being able to control people who you owned, and not in the nature of old world slavery, which I used to teach law students, but the new world slavery where you were not a person. You didn't even have the rights of a dog in American slavery. And there are a lot of people in America who want to bring it back. The Republican Party nominated for governor of North Carolina last year a man who said, I want to own some slaves. And he was black. And there were, by the way, black slave owners prior to the Civil War. But the core of all of this, you have two big issues. One is the declining economics of 90% of Americans, which I wrote a best-selling series of books about, one of which won the Investigative Book of the Year award earlier in this century. 90% of Americans are worse off today than they were in 1973, which was the peak year for the bottom 90%. And the policies Donald Trump is pursuing will make them worse off, even though he tells them he is their champion, I alone can save you, and that he's their hero. And you'll notice at every rally, Trump always says, we love the poorly educated. The most highly educated people in America by religion are Hindu, followed by Ashkenazi Jews, and then there's a big drop-off until you get to the mainstream Protestant religions. That scares people who are racists, like Charlie Kirk, like Donald Trump. They don't like to think about the fact that people who don't look like them may be smarter, better educated, more competent than they are. And so their answer is to find ways to suppress these people. This is not the end of seeing political violence in America, which is terribly unfortunate. But there is a long history of this. The piece I mentioned that I wrote, DC Report, goes back to what happened after the 1901 assassination of President McKinley and how it's relevant to the death of Charlie Kirk, giving context to this that I haven't seen in any other commentary by a nationally known American journalist. So expect that there will be more violence, that Donald Trump will continue to promote racist violence against people who are not European in appearance. And so long as he remains in the White House, this problem will be worse. And expect that the worst instincts will come out of this from those people who are not well educated, do not have a solid moral grounding like your other guest because they have religious values or were taught religious values. And the people who call themselves Christian nationalists like Charlie Kirk, if you read their literature as I've done and listen to their speeches, they're not Christians. They do not believe in the message of the Sermon on the Mount. They believe in hatred, violence, oppression, and there have been pastors who have publicly said, identifying themselves, my flock is saying, why are you teaching turn the other cheek in this Jesus nonsense? I want the religion of Donald Trump. Hit him in the face. Hit him again. Hit him again. That's what's happened with the poorly educated right in America. Anger because of the economics that I wrote about in those 3 books, lack of moral education, and disregard for people who don't look like they look like.
Right, absolutely. On that note, I thank both of our guests for joining us to take this conversation forward. Viewers, we also have now the first visuals of Tyler Robinson in custody that have come out. Those on your screens are the official mugshots that have been released by the FBI, who currently have Tyler Robinson in his custody. During the press conference, it was also informed that no further arrests are likely in the case, but the investigation into the motives will continue. That's the latest news that we have for our viewers. We've also been told that Utah's Governor Spencer Cox has said that that there are 3 days for charges to be filed. So that's the latest that we're picking up from the ground. And with that, we have to wrap up. That's all that we have time for. Stay tuned.